understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
The union?
Look for the union label when you are buying Michael's dress or bras. Remember some.
Good morning, Muskegon. I'm Jim Riley, here with my engineer, the legendary Oscar Osbo, and the equally legendary former Muskegon Chronicle columnist Tracy Lorenz. And we welcome all of you in radio, computer, and podcast land to Eye on Muskegon. We are Muskegon County's only political talk radio show, and we're a show that values your input, so give us a call right now. Our phone number, 231-830-3109. Today, September 18, we'll talk hot topics and then labor unions in Muskegon, positive or negative for new jobs. As I mentioned last week, President Bill Clinton famously stated, "There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America." And the same is true of our wonderful Muskegon County. But before we can even try to cure what's wrong, we've got to get the diagnosis of the illness from the doctor. And we'll try to be Muskegon's doctor of diagnosis. And we'll find a cure. That's what Eye on Muskegon is all about. We're not here to tear down our gem of a county. We are here to expose the warts so that we can go, well, wartless. I'll do my homework, but I'll need lots of help from you. So give us a call at 231-830-3109, and let's get this show rolling. Before we get to our discussion of labor unions right here in Muskegon County, I'd like to talk current events, hot topics with Tracy and Oscar, and you out there in Muskegon land. And some stories that caught my eye. Actually, before the story, just a heads up and a wonderful thanks to the people putting on the Irish Fest. I was there last night. A very hard name to remember, Scythian, one of the most high-energy bands I've ever seen in my life, one of the hardest names to remember I've ever heard in my life. Unbelievable. And in addition to that, on Friday night, and I don't know if it continues through today, at the Frauenthal, the West Shore Symphony, which I had not been to in maybe over a decade, had a Pops concert that was spectacular. Everyone who was there, I'm sure, enjoyed it. I know I'll be back again. So not to overdo the wonderful events here in Muskegon, let's get to politics. One of the hot items that just caught my eye and ear, and if you've checked any of the news on TV this morning, everyone is talking about the new Buffett rule, the millionaire tax. And I'm not necessarily going to talk specifically about the tax at all, or in specific, but I'm just going to read a comment from a poster. Yet what is lost in this ridiculous proposal are the unintended consequences which always follow idiotic decisions arising out of central planning. Number one of which would be a market crash, as those who have paper gains since the market lows of 2009 scramble to lock in the old capital gains rate of 15%. Instead of holding on to paper profits that would end up being as high as 35% or more. So, Tracy, what do you think? Is this a great idea? I mean, everybody loves Warren Buffett.
It's such a drop in the bucket, though. When you talk how many millionaires there are and how much they're paying in taxes, it's all political. It's all just to make it look good, because it's really not going to have that big an effect.
Well, will it perhaps, though, have an effect on the stock market? Will it perhaps have an effect on what the average little guy out there who perhaps is invested in Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, will they get sucked under if rich people who own many assets in the stock market pull out?
The little guy always gets sucked under somehow, because I've noticed in the past.
True.
You try to time it out, but it just never works. These guys know what's going on months ahead of time, and they put in the orders before we even know what's going on. So yeah, it's gonna hurt the little guy. Sell everything.
Well, on that happy note, we do have actually a piece of relatively good news. This is a headline which also caught my attention this morning. Violent crimes drop 12%. Reason unknown. In other news, record number of Americans carrying concealed weapons. Who'd have guessed?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing left to steal also. So how can you? That's got to cut into the crime.
Well, Warren Buffett might argue that he's got some things left to steal, but what about the fact that more and more people are
Warren's tough,
are
though.
carrying?
No one's going to mess with Warren. He knows karate, from what I hear.
Well,
judo
he is in Omaha, and nobody can really
right.
find that. So that sort of makes sense. I know I've got my carry permit. I got it a few years ago, concealed carry, and actually it has another name.
Oh.
But I've got my Ruger 9mm.
Carry permit, which allows me to dump pig's blood on people at proms. But it's a completely different carry permit.
Yeah, I was thinking the only part I really vividly remember is the shower scene from that wonderful show.
I wish I had the Carrie music right now. That would be
yeah. Well, we got to plan next time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Step it up a little.
We need more. All right. Well, moving on from that shower segment here, which, by the way, you have to rent that movie to see the best part. You're not going to see a wonderful. Who was that? The Sissy Spacek at home. This one got me, and this is a pet peeve of mine.
Is that the name of the band at Sissy Spacek?
Yeah.
Something very similar.
It was, oh, God, it's gone now. Scythian, I believe it was. I remember actually going back to the Irish Fest. Honey Bunch and I were there, and this band truly, if you are ever feeling low or slow, turn the music up. I did buy a CD. I do have a CD player. I guess that belies a lot of my age, or perhaps their lack
Welcome
of
to the 80s.
Yeah, their lack of high techness. But these guys really did it, just as Sissy Spacek did it in Carrie. So moving right along. This one does annoy the petunias out of me. We are now, I'm a big Michigan State fan, or less so since last night. But when we go to Spartan Stadium, now they've kept women, or anybody for that matter, I suppose, Democrats also, from bringing purses in. And
where's Barney Frank? Watch.
Barney would have a hard time, just as frankly Francine and or I guess I should be saying Honey Bunch does. You're not allowed to bring any type of bag or bag-like item.
Backpacks, no.
Nothing, no. But even itty bitty purses, and it's annoying and it's a pain in the bunions. But now the NFL wants to up their pat down. They call it new enhanced pat-down procedures, which you got to love the term enhanced.
Enhanced pat-down?
Well, I mean, there is, enhanced breast augmentation. That might be viewed, certainly by the people paying for it and selling it, that may be viewed as a positive. I just don't see enhanced pat-down procedures at NFL games being of benefit to those who are being enhanced. And,
well, sign me up.
Well,
so I can't wear my fanny pack anymore on my front?
Well, the NFL, it doesn't say that you can't bring the fanny pack, but previously, security guards, and I quote, only patted down fans from the waist up while looking for booze, weapons, or other banned items. I'm not sure what else would be banned besides booze and weapons. I don't know, salami sandwiches or something. But this is from the waist up, so you can imagine that, and I haven't been to an NFL game for a while, but you can imagine that all of, how the old men quite often will dress with the belt up around the middle of their chest, and since you're only going to be patted down from what the waist, which of course is defined by where the belt is, from the waist up, you can imagine all these people at the NFL games, and I'm going to look later on today. I'm going to see if people are wearing their
like Fred Mertz. Fred Mertz is walking around to that.
Well, there's a little question in my mind that people are not stupid, but as it turns out, the NFL folks are not either, because now the pat down. Think of what a great job to be a patter downer working for the NFL for minimum wage. The pat downs are going to start from the ankles up.
So I was going to say, if you're like a gangster rapper with your belt around your knees,
well, maybe
did they start padding there?
Well, the point is, the gangster rappers, of course, their belts were way low, which meant that more padding would have been done in the past. Perhaps there's a racial element,
but in an area that might not want to be padded.
Nonetheless, well, anyway,
and
I found out I say nonetheless about 85 times a show, so I'm going to try and stop that.
Did you say they're going to be padded from ankle
Ankle up is the proposal.
So the shoe bomber's still alive.
Yeah,
he can still.
That's true. If you want to bring that that flask,
the shoe flask.
Get Smart had his phone there. Now that we've got you're able to bring cell phones in. I imagine you could put your cocaine or your whiskey or whatever in the heel of your shoe. So that's at least there's an opportunity for inventive Americans when they attend an NFL game. Now here's one that goes under. I'm not sure. We'll file this later. But many of you have seen the Arby's ads. I know I've seen them all over it. It's good mood food. I don't know. McDonald's came up with some little phrase, whatever. But it's good mood food is the phrase that they've been pushing. And this leads me to an interesting event that just happened this past week. And I'll read the headline here on M Live. Sandwich in lap defense results in non-guilty verdict for Hudson City manager charged with indecent exposure. And I'll just read a little more here because it's compelling. A jury in Lenawee County, that's here in Michigan, today found Hudson's city manager not guilty of indecent exposure. Apparently, a female motorist told police she saw him, the city manager, fondling himself inside his vehicle at an Adrian intersection back in December. Now, Steve Hartzell testified that he had good mood food here, folks, that he had an Arby's submarine sandwich in his lap and was pulling red onions from it. I would imagine vigorously pulling those red onions because he probably hated onions. I wonder, I don't know, do they have pickles? Do they have pickles on those sandwiches?
I'm just surprised Adrian has an intersection.
Those are very good, but I've never really picked the peppers, so or onions. So
nonetheless, folks, help me, please. Phone in and stop me from nonethelessing.
Get one of those dog collars, like anti-bark collars. Yeah. Nonetheless.
Yeah, I may need that. We're working it, but. This to me is actually more compelling than the onion pulling city manager. According to a police report, Hartzell initially told police that the woman must have seen the sandwich and thought he was exposing himself, but he later admitted that he was fondling himself, and yet he still was found not guilty. So it is a good mood food, certainly for one of the city managers in our fair
Well, he's
state.
driving around.
Apparently, he was the lady who saw him. It was at an intersection. So she was
one of those Nouveau makeup or cosmetics billboards up there, and like a hot chick on it.
Well, it could be. You got to wonder why the lady was looking at the lap, although perhaps she saw the onions flying up.
How can you even see a lap unless she's in like a high rise or a semi truck? You can't look over and see the lap of somebody.
Don't say high rise during that story. Thank you, folks. Okay, moving on to another one.
I was just going to say though, real quick, that I'm sure Arby's won't be calling this guy to be a representative for them.
Be the next Jared.
Well, that's probably true.
Probably not.
Maybe not. All right, moving right along. In terms of bad news. This is just from yesterday's Detroit News. The headline here is $2.7 billion needed to fix state's bad roads. Michigan's 80,000 miles of paved roads need $2.7 billion of work in the next year. Now get this, in the next year, just to make them minimally drivable, according to a new study released, which is going to be released on Monday by state lawmakers. We know our roads are crummy. We know we're broke. But they're telling us that they have to spend $2.7 billion, like, instantly. And where are they going to get that from? Rich guys, do you think? Warren Buffett doesn't live here. Is there a rich guy we can hit for this?
2.7. They need that just on Sherman.
Yeah.
They certainly have never driven down Norton Avenue, I can assure you. If that was the standard, it would be in the trillion level. But
that should be sponsored by, like, some local dentist. Like, this mile of Norton Avenue is sponsored by Aspen Dental. Place all your fillings.
That's a good idea. That is a good idea. Actually, we'll try to get them as a sponsor. But folks, that's another $2.7 billion that I'm sure you all have in your wallets, in your savings accounts, and whatever.
It's at 0.7.
It's the 0.7. It's exact.
That's $700 million extra right there. It just sounds so like 0.7.
I would have rounded up to $3 billion, but that's just me. Here's one from the city we all love. This is from the Detroit News. Owners escape tax debt by rebuying foreclosed homes. And this is nifty. This is apparently a law in the state of Michigan that everybody can take advantage of. Landowner Jeffrey Cusimano didn't pay property taxes on 7 of his East Side rentals for 3 years, owing the city of Detroit more than $131,000. Now, typically, that would mean that he'd lose his properties. But Cusimano not only got to keep them, his debt, including the interest, the fees, and unpaid water bills, was virtually wiped free. What he did, and this is very cool, I'm glad we have laws like this. He used a little-known loophole, less little-known now that the millions listening to this show will hear. He used a little-known loophole to erase tax debt by letting their properties go into foreclosure and then buying them back a month later at the Wayne County Treasurer's auction for pennies on the dollar.
It's a good move.
Now, isn't that, I mean, folks, that's what government's all about, to help out the little guy. And damn those people who want to collect the water bills. You know, water ought to be free, right? I mean, heck, when it rains, it's free.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got another one here. Oh, now, this is a good one. If you've got a... If you are a smoker of the accepted method of, or the accepted product of smokers now, which of course is marijuana, we don't want to be smoking the evil tobacco. But here, the headline here is Michigan's Attorney General has issued an opinion saying that the owner of an apartment building, hotel, or similar facility, which I don't know what that would be, but anyway, can prohibit the use or growing of medical marijuana anywhere in the building. So that if you live in your house and you've got a doctor's prescription to smoke marijuana or to grow it, I guess, that's okay. But if you live in an apartment building, or if you live in a hotel, or I guess if you're in a hotel where you might think you could smoke up a little pot, get the bong cooking up, the Attorney General has now said that the apartment building or hotel owner can say no pot, which I'm sure will go untested in the courts.
It does cause quite an odor when you're growing, yeah. So.
Yeah, but it's a healthy odor from what we're told.
Well, what's pot? I'm not familiar with.
Pot is what plants grow in on occasion. But if you're interested in meeting some lawyers, I would suggest that you tell somebody in your apartment building they can't grow pot. And I imagine, it wouldn't surprise me at all that the state would actually get involved in suing the apartment owner who says that the folks with the medically prescribed marijuana can't smoke it.
It's the new good business, great business, though, right now. It is. I mean, everybody's doing it. Well, so I hear, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they were. They did take a big hit a couple weeks ago, but I understand it is big business. And the classes, where you apparently pay a significant amount of money, a few $100s or more, to go to these classes to get certified to grow and then distribute, are packed. Matter of fact, it seems to me all the people that used to be absolutely clogging to the max the carry permits are now doing this. I want to get to this.
Well, there is some secondary value to the economy because it does help out Arby's and Doritos and.
Yeah, munchies.
Yeah. So
That's
there's unintended consequences. Yeah.
It's an economic boon. A quick one here, and we're going to go to break. This one, it really has little to do with anything, but I just thought it was interestingly written. The city manager of Whitehall has supported, and apparently they've just given the big tax break to one of the companies up there. And it's going to result in about half of the taxes that they normally would get. But the Chronicle writes this. Hubler, who is the city manager, said that the city typically supports such tax reductions, also known as tax abatements. Quote, "We're not losing any taxes," he said. "We're just getting half of what we would."
Oh.
So, all right.
Math.
Have you heard the news? GM has authorized Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC to clear out all remaining 2011 Chevrolets, Cadillacs, and GMCs. Every remaining 2011 is marked down to the absolute bottom line price of the year. Discounts and rebates over $14,000. 0% financing on select models. Benton has authorized the entire sales team to increase trade dollars even higher during the 2011 model year-end clearance event. Shop over 1,000 vehicles in Benton's 20-acre motor mall. Silverado pickups $196 a month, Malibu's $138, Cadillac CTS $299, and Escalade's $599. Customers every day are finding out how they can drive home a new car with a lower monthly payment. Stop in and let us show you how easy it is to do that. Now's the time. Benton is the place. It's our giant 2011 model year and clearance event. The only thing missing from this sale is you. Banks on hand for immediate approval. Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, Henry Street, Muskegon. Hurry, time is running out.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Salma Hayek, and I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Or more. Click or call 1-800-578-2208 to find out how much you can save today. That's 1-800-578-2208.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090. WKBZ.
Okay, we are back with Tracy Lorenz, the legendary Oscar Osbow, and we're talking now about labor unions in Muskegon. Give us a call and join the discussion. Our number, 231-830-3109. Last week, you may have heard some mighty powerful comments from President Obama's close friend, Teamster President Jimmy Hoffa, Jr.
Workers, and you see it everywhere. It is the Tea Party. And you know there's only one way to beat and win that war. The one thing about working people is we like a good fight. And you know what? They got a war. They got a war with us. And there's only going to be one winner. It's going to be the workers of Michigan and America. We're going to win that war. President Obama, this is your army. We are ready to march. Let's take these son of a bitches out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much.
Well, so much for civility. The Junior Hoffa's promise to take these SOBs out kind of grabs the attention of lots of folks. So since the national conversation's already begun, we'll continue it here at EyeOnMuskegon. Tracy, are you thinking that maybe Mr. Hoffa was talking about you, or
specifically? You cut that part out, but he specifically gave my name. But I do have some sympathy for him because I hear he was raised in a single-parent home, so he probably has a little.
I understand his father was earthy.
As an aside, when my brother got married in Detroit, we had the rehearsal dinner at the Marcus Red Fox, which is where Jimmy Hoffa got disappeared from.
I saved.
Nobody ordered the hamburger.
I saved all of the money that allowed me to go to Michigan State, working at the Wrigley's grocery store on that same corner of Telegraph and Maple, and went to the Marcus Red Fox often.
We have a suspect.
So that's true.
Open the file.
He didn't disappear till I was at State. Well, look, Mr. Hoffa is apparently supported because he's not been denounced by any that I'm aware of on the left, certainly not by the president or his wife, whose box he was sitting in just a few days after that.
Just a little play on words there. Yeah, I'm sure he still has a
You
full
can
story.
call in, folks, anytime.
He's got the name.
Well, we do have, but we do have a very serious issue. Unemployment in Muskegon, this is as of July, was 11.2%. In Ottawa County and Kent County, it's around 9%. Those were adjoining counties. They're not Florida or California or Texas or whatever. They're right here. Unemployment is a real deal. It's a horrible situation if you or your family are unemployed. And the question that I would like to ask, and we can go just about any place we can here on this, but have the unions here in Muskegon been helpful in creating the atmosphere or creating jobs in the county? And before I get to just a response from that question, We did play early on the song, The Look for the Union Label, which was from the 70s, actually, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. And I searched for that song because I remember hearing it so often when I was a younger person back in the 70s. And I heard it so often that I honestly knew most of the words, at least the beginning part of it. So they'd spent a lot of money. The International Ladies Garment Workers Union, their intent was to keep the manufacture of the clothing here in the United States. And needless to say, it doesn't appear that it worked out that well. I don't even know if the union is still around. But the union's intent with the ad, and the union's, I'm sure, promise to those workers who paid the union dues, was that we will protect your jobs and your benefits. And it appears that at least in that case, they failed. That said, how about how it looks here in Muskegon County?
Well, if you look to these surrounding counties, the businesses that seem to be growing and employing the most people are the non-union shops. I think the long ago days of cradle to grave jobs are gone, and now if you don't produce, you don't have a job.
Well, but not to put you on the spot here, but where do you get the stats, or where do you get the belief that the non-union jobs are growing here in Muskegon County specifically?
I made them up. Isn't that the way it works in radio? Well, I live in Ottawa County. I don't live in Muskegon County, and I look at the places in Ottawa County that are growing, which shape, finish, place like that. It seems to be the smaller, in shape and finish certainly aren't small, but the smaller businesses that are growing and putting on employees. The guys in the prefab buildings out by the airport that seem to be expanding. The super large Brunswicks and Sappies and CWC, they're just not there anymore.
Well, is that who is Mr. Hoffa Jr.? Do you think he did mention the Tea Party? Is he just focusing his ire at the Tea Party? Is he focusing his ire on these small business owners who, in fact, are growing and hiring people, but are hiring outside of the union? Where do you think his we're going to take these SOBs out for? And we may want to talk about that in a moment too.
I mean, who do I think he was talking to? Right?
Yeah.
It's got to be the smaller business owners who are not turning to the union label, who are trying to keep the employees happy without having them gang up on them. Because if you share the wealth, so to speak, there's no reason that you should even need a union. My experience with unions, and I've been in one, was
I've been in 2 unions myself.
The most that's why we had that little handshake. Came in.
That's right. It's a special one. Don't tell anybody. Thank God this isn't being taped. Oh my gosh, it is.
That's not really a handshake. We just reach into each other's pocket and take out money, and then it all ends up even at the end.
Should I call you Barney?
Split it with Oscar. No.
As long as you didn't forget me, that was good.
And my experience with the unions, and again, I'm just talking about the ones I was in, or the one I was in, was the most ardent union supporters were the least hard workers. Because if you work hard and if you do your job, you shouldn't have to worry about a union. That's why I've always been in favor of merit shops and merit pay. Because if you're making the company money, they will pay you. That's the bottom line. Is the person's got to be making more money for the company than they're costing the company going out. And if you're costing more than you're making, then you've got to get the boot.
I would just wonder, do you think companies actually do that now, though? I think it's changed myself.
Do what?
Well, if your employee's doing the job, they get paid for the job. I think that they're cutting back and doing so much part-time work for the full-time person.
Why do you think they're doing the part-time, though, Oscar?
Well, money. Save money. Right. They're trying to survive.
Well, it's the same thing, though. It's what I'm saying is that you are a machine. You're a tool. You're no different than anything else out in that shop. And if that machine is making you money, the machine keeps running. If it doesn't make you money, then the machine gets sold. So if you can, I'm a business owner myself, so I know if someone is making me cash, they're sticking around. I don't care what their personality is or what their track record is. Just if they're making money, they get to stay, and if someone is costing me money, then they have to move along.
Right.
So,
well, I'm sure that a lot of, obviously many people in this community would disagree with you, but I would sadly say that probably fewer today than, let's say, 5 or even 10 years ago, simply because there are fewer union jobs in this community. And we're certainly looking to hear from anybody who's wants to get online right now and give good reasons why we need a bigger union presence here in our community. 231-830-3109. I'd like to bring up a couple union events that have happened, which is the reason I decided to talk about unions in Muskegon. These happened just in the last few weeks. We had 150 protesters that congregated. Their intent, the stated intent, was to congregate outside the local office in downtown Muskegon of Congressman Bill Huizenga. And apparently, according to the Chronicle and according to the communications director of the union-backed group We Are the People, there were 200 protesters there, and they were asking, I guess, yelling or carrying signs in some manner, slogans, "Where are the jobs?" Now, Congressman Huizenga has only been our congressman for, about 7 months. I'm not sure what he could do in terms of creating jobs in the city of Muskegon in a short period of time. But there's little question that the union presence is well organized. You get 200 people out in downtown. Now, there's a few other little events that just happened.
It's more of a summer celebration.
Well, perhaps the unions ought to be in charge of that. That might help. But we had the same situation, or not the same situation, but we had another situation of significant union turnout. By, in this case, these SEIU, the Service Employees International Union, protesting the apparently an attempt to cut back on the quite generous health benefits that are given to the employees, the union employees at Mercy Health. And what I found interesting was that they had all over town had these signs up. I saw them, and I thought they were kind of effective, at least in getting my attention. And the sign said, "Hands off our health care." And my understanding is that they finally settled with the hospital. At least we didn't see any further strikes, and it looks like they settled in some way. But the hands off our health care almost sounds like one of those crazy, wild-eyed Tea Party people.
That's right.
And the funny thing is, this is an SEIU, and jump in here, you know me. You gotta...
Well, they looked awful happy when they were out there striking. It was a sunny day. The one day I saw them, and they were doing the honk if you support us thing, and it seemed festive.
And one would wonder, given that theoretically, at least one would assume that they were Mercy employees, that they were taking their time off, or I did know they all hopped into buses, so perhaps they came from, who knows, Chicago or Detroit. We don't know that. But the interesting point to me was, with the hands off your health care signs all over town, and that was their chant and their slogan, the SEIU, and I'm looking at the SEIU.org, their webpage, and right here it says, Healthcare Equality Project, support Obama's healthcare plan. Quote, "The first step we need to fix our broken healthcare system and get us on the path toward healthcare equality is to tell Congress to pass President Obama's healthcare plan." Well, isn't that hands-on somebody's healthcare? I guess they're interested in having hands-on Oscar's healthcare plan in mind and Tracy's, but not theirs.
But not. People just don't realize how much that stuff costs, especially with a company that size. I worked for a company down in Holland, and just in one fell swoop, our insurance went up $250,000 in 1 year, and that's just right off the top. Like, where does that money come from? I mean,
where did it come from in your case?
From the bottom line. I mean, where else is it going to come from?
Well, you could have laid off people or done some other things.
Many things were tried, but it was a construction company, and it basically just we did raise the co-pay up a little bit, and I think that was about it.
All right.
Basically, we just sucked it up.
Well, sounds like it took the money from the rich.
Hi, my name's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
So I see this ad on TV. It says I can reduce my debt by 50%. So I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. It didn't seem right, but they said they'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands of dollars, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything just to win your trust.
Sounded perfect. I did everything they told me to do.
They never paid my creditors. They didn't even contact them.
Turns out I'm even more in debt because the fees and the interest on my cards kept piling up.
Bad advice from so-called experts can make your financial situation worse.
And the bank turned me down for a mortgage. And that's when I realized my credit was shot.
I should have gone straight to my creditors to begin with.
There is a better way to get help. Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. Debtadvice.org. Real solutions for real people. This has been a public service message.
This is Mike McCready, Pearl Jam's lead guitarist. Join me and help transform the lives of the 1.4 million Americans living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Sign up today for one of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's Take Steps walks at cctakesteps.org.
Fox News Radio, I'm Jared Halpern. A tax hike for millionaires. President Obama will announce tomorrow a proposal to raise the minimum tax rate on Americans earning $1 million a year.
Class warfare, Chris, may make for really good politics, but it makes for rotten economics.
Republican House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan's reaction on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace.
It punishes job creation and those people who create jobs.
The president's deficit reduction plan also expected to include cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. In Libya, rebel fighters still meeting resistance in Muammar Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte.
It is a very difficult situation. We know that they are calling in more weaponry. We think that they're bringing in about 400 or so trucks with machine guns and anti-aircraft weaponry on the back, as well as one tank as well to try and flush out that area.
Sky News reporter Alex Rossi in Misrata. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Today, sunny to partly cloudy with a high of 74. Southeast winds 10 to 20. We're expecting showers early tonight, then becoming a steady rain overnight, and a few thunderstorms are even possible. A low around 60. Southeast winds 15 to 25. Tomorrow, rain and a few thunderstorms in the morning, and then mainly cloudy for the rest of the day with a high around 70. Southwest winds 20 to 30 miles an hour, and then back to sunshine on Tuesday with a high of 72. News Talk 1090, the Talk of Muskegon.
The Talk of Muskegon program can now be heard live every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on News Talk 1090. This is John Van White.
And Brian Worsham. We will focus on community events, news, weather, and sports. We'll also bring you traffic updates, weekly segments like the movies with Ron Van Timmeren, the Biker Report, and Lumberjacks. This is Talk of Muskegon right here, 8 to 9 a.m. on the Talk of Muskegon, News Talk 1090. This is Talk of Muskegon right here, 8 to 9 a.m. on the Talk of Muskegon, News Talk 1090.
We got to keep an eye on the battle that we face, a war on workers. And you see it everywhere. It is the Tea Party. And you know there's only one way to beat and win that war. The one thing about working people is we like a good fight. And you know what? They got a war. They got a war with us. And there's only going to be one winner. It's going to be the workers of Michigan and America. We're going to win that war. President Obama, this is your army. We are ready to march. Let's take these son of a bitches out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much.
Well, again, that's Teamster President Jimmy Hoffa Jr. Giving his side of the union discussion. I'm here with Tracy Lorenz and Oscar Osbo. We are attempting to take phone calls, folks, and we may have a little bit of a problem. We don't know. So give us a call. You can be our tester. We are at 231-830-3109. We'd love to hear from both sides of this. If you want to yell that we're a bunch of bums or praise us to the top, which is really what we deserve, give us a call. Question, we're talking about the unions, and obviously in Muskegon County, we have significantly higher unemployment than the surrounding counties, and we have significantly higher union presence here. There was another event just this past week where the Red Cross blood workers, which I don't know if there's a special union for blood workers. You can imagine how much fun they would have with badges and things, whether or not they need stinking badges. But they ultimately, they were striking. They were public on Western Avenue or whatever the road, Webster, I guess, in front of where the local Red Cross offices are. But it appears that they have settled that strike. But I found it interesting that the Chronicle reported, and I'll quote this, the Red Cross also restored the, quote, union security clause of the blood workers contract, which had expired in 2009 with the rest of the contract. The clause requires new hires to join a union. Union security requiring that you join a union, how has that worked out?
First of all, why does the blood workers need a union? What are they overworking them? They got 15-hour days? Plus, I have a problem with it because I went there to donate blood, and they told me it had to be my own. Kind of threw me off. I was all ready. I had to leave.
Now, that's interesting because I brought Honey Bunch in once, and I was able to give her her blood, which was kind of nice. I just dragged her in and
nice.
put her arm up there. And
squeeze her.
You know, I've never heard the term blood worker, but what's happening, we know the Red Cross can't, it doesn't make a profit. It is officially a nonprofit, so it can't not make money, or at least not make a profit. But it could go under. They do have employees, and so no matter what this contract was about, either more money is going to the employees, the blood workers, or more money is going to the mission of the Red Cross. It doesn't seem to be any difference there. So if this was a corporation, for instance, that was fighting with the union workers, and the corporation, in your case, as you just explained, where the workers got more, that would mean that the corporation would get less, right?
Right.
So why aren't the blood workers accused of being greedy and really taking away from the very noble mission that the Red Cross espouses?
Are you trying to call the blood workers leeches?
That's why you're here, Tracy. Thank you very much.
It's got to come from somewhere. There's a pie. There's a finite amount of money, and it either is going to the blood workers, or it's going to people whose houses just burned down, or it's going to Tim Lipan or somebody.
Oh, well, we love Tim over here, and frankly, I think everybody in the county does. But maybe we ought to, check out where he's stuffing all the money under the mattresses. But in fact, there's less money to stuff, so we won't go to Tim's house.
Well, I think Tim does a great job. I just know him personally more than professionally, but he's a...
So you bring it up just once, and now we have to spend the next 10 minutes backing down from the comments. Let's move to something else. To something else. Apparently, some people have got a problem with certain parts of the union contracts. The Michigan House of Representatives, just this past week, passed a union, what they call a union dues proposal. And this passed. This is on the way to the Republican-controlled Senate in the state. And I'll quote again, the Republican-led Michigan House on Thursday, just this past Thursday, narrowly approved a proposal that would prohibit public schools from automatically deducting union dues from the paychecks of teachers and other employees. Now, I bring this up for a variety of reasons, but one, I was astounded. I didn't know that we're paying the schools, who tell us they're really tight on money. Right. We're paying the schools to essentially be the bill collector for the union. That's kind of a nifty deal for them.
So let me get this straight. What is the state doing? They're having the schools deduct the money from. Well,
that's apparently what is being done in maybe all, or certainly many school districts are doing the accounting and the money collection from the pay. Unions. And then sending it out to the unions, and the Michigan Republicans, this is primarily a Republican issue, have just voted, and it appears, given that we have a Republican Senate and a Republican governor, that this may be the law of the land, that these schools will not have to do that withholding and accounting and all the rest of it. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think they should have to do the accounting.
What are you, a Republican? Because that's what the Republicans think.
Well, the other thing I don't understand about like school unions and stuff is how come everybody doesn't have to be in it? How come, and let's not just say schools, let's say any company, how come, where's the salesman's union and the accounting union and the receptionist union? How come it's just certain chunks of society that have to be in the union?
Well, in Michigan, actually, that's a really good question, because in Michigan, we are not a right-to-work state. We are a state that, if there is a union, it requires everybody who does a similar job to be in that union.
Right.
If you don't want to be in the union, that's, move out of state, which, unfortunately, so many of our companies have done. Well, you're right, though. What a lot of companies have done is they've reclassified different jobs that might have been considered union. They've reclassified them as management or some other type in order to get away from that. So I guess you could take the assumption that the companies are not, they like to have as few union members as they can get, at least companies who've done that.
Successful companies. Some of the more successful companies, anyway.
Well, maybe because of our phones. Of course, Verizon did have the big phone strike just recently, so maybe Verizon is the reason we're not getting calls today. We'd love to get to hear from those people who would have the other side. And as I said, perhaps we are having phone problems. Well, when we talk about the unions, and there's some interesting things that also happened. This has been a great week for show prep. General Motors and the UAW just signed their contract, and so they will not be striking General Motors. But there's a very interesting event that happened, and I found it in Crane's Detroit Business, and it happened this week. As many of you know, you are part owners of Chrysler Corporation, along with Italy's Fiat Corporation, because we bailed out Chrysler. And the president of, or the chairman, I believe, of Fiat, who is leading the negotiations with the UAW for Chrysler, had flown in, and the chairman's group of, or what they call, he may not be the chairman of Fiat, he's the Chrysler Group LLC CEO, Sergio Marchionne, was communicating with the head of the UAW in Chrysler, Bob King. And he flew in from Italy this past week. This just happened a few days ago. He flew in from Italy to complete this new 4-year labor agreement that, quote, had been largely done except for a couple of outstanding economic issues. And when he got into Detroit, the head of the UAW was doing other stuff and couldn't meet with him. So this Sergio Marchionne wrote a letter and made it public, and one of the sentences that kind of grabs me is, quote, and we even agreed that we were still around in 2011. Let's start over. And we even agreed that were we still around in 2011, we would not go back to the old adversarial and confrontational ways of the past to resolve unsettled matters, that we would have someone else arbitrate our differences, Marchionne wrote King. He goes on, I flew back from the Frankfurt Motor Show last night to be here today to finalize the dialogue that has been started by our teams, but that required your presence and mine to conclude. You unfortunately could not be here, I am told, due to competing engagements. Now, he not just wrote that letter, he made this public. He was peeved. I don't know what the Italian word for peeved would be, but it may start with a P. Who knows? This is unions in our state. Chrysler obviously is an important corporation in our state. We have the owner, or at least the mouthpiece for the owner of that corporation, not happy with the union management. That doesn't sound good.
No. If you don't show up for a meeting you're supposed to be at with the owner, it usually takes a turn at some point in your career. But I just don't see why it always has to be so adversarial with the unions. They're always, we want to work together, but then when it comes down to negotiations, they don't really want to work all that much together.
Well, Jimmy Hoffa
I've been there.
has said that he wants to, what was the term? He wants to take you out, take out those SOBs. I would imagine you're one of those kinds of people. What do you think he means by take you out? Because adversarial, this defines, I would think.
Probably ask his dad. I think his dad got taken out. I think it's pretty... I don't think there's a lot of gray area there.
Right.
Well,
he wants to take in a date.
You're not going to suggest that Jimmy Hoffa and his army would be marching in to obviously not to put you underneath the stadium concrete someplace.
Well, I'm kind of suggesting that. That's what it sounded like to me. the guy says they're going to take
we
you
got
out.
the concealed carry law, and Tracy's leaving right now. Apparently, he's got some. His very smart son is
threatened before.
calling for him.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what's
he's in the car.
We don't know what's in his heart, in Jimmy Hoffa's Jr.'s heart, but we certainly know what's in his voice. And if that particular message is embraced by unions here in Muskegon, certainly that is not going to be a message that is going to be well received by the companies who either have factories or businesses here. But even worse, I think companies who are considering moving here or expanding here. Let's say you've got a factory, a company in Ottawa County, and they're thinking of expanding, and they want to get closer to 96. If the unions here locally, who have been so active just in this past week, are going to embrace the message that apparently the President of the United States has no problem with, that can't bode well for the thing that really matters to all of us, and that's employees, that's jobs.
Right. And how often do they win? That's the thing. They keep, when you look at Brunswick and Sappi and the rest of them that were so pro-union, and the negotiations they went through, and they might have won in the short term, but where are they now? They're gone. Right. They're all gone. I went through a couple of tours of Brunswick. Was doing some work over there, and guys were walking me around, and I'd walk through that shop, and there were guys laying on cots, watching TV, playing cards, and I'd say, what's going on? And so they have this quota, and they just, bust their butts in the morning. They get the quota by 10 o'clock, and the rest of the day, they can do whatever they want.
But didn't the corporate, I would condemn the corporate management because they signed these contracts.
Yeah, it's like, again, I don't know if you have a gun to your head and you sign a contract. I mean, what are you going to do? These are your two options: sign the contract or quit making bowling balls. And you look around,
or you could make them someplace else.
Yeah, or you can make them in Mexico. They're round, they got holes in them. How tough can it be? But I'd walk through there, and there's this one guy I remember seeing. He had this little Dixie cup, and the bowling balls that come out, there's a spot on the bowling ball that is the heavy point of the bowling ball. They put it in the air, and his job was he poured a little paint into that spot, paint about the size of a pinhead, and then it went on. And the guy told me he was probably making $80,000 a year just to take this little paper cup and pour this paint into that dot.
Now, is that job still here in Muskegon County?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, sadly, on that note, I'm going to go to my close here, folks. Well, as always, 1 week just isn't enough time to expose all of the challenges that we face here in Muskegon County, and it certainly isn't enough time to even begin to solve those problems, but we're not going to give up. With your help, we're going to expose what the political class here in Muskegon does not want you to find out, and we're going to try to come up with some common sense, real-life solutions that will make our great county a better home for all of us. And we're going to try to empower you to get it done right here on the shores of beautiful Lake Michigan. Now, get out your pens and pencils, folks. You can email me at EyeOnMuskegon@gmail.com, and that's EYE on Muskegon at gmail.com. I'll be starting a weekly email blast letter with links to what we talk about on the show, and I hope links so that you can listen to Eye on Muskegon on the web. And I just found out that the links to the podcast on newstalk1090.com are now up and working. So I know I will go home as quickly as I can after this show and really have a great rest of the day listening to the show one more time. You can also check out my blogs, MuskegonPundit.com. That's MuskegonPundit, one word.com. And MuskegonTaxpayersAlliance.com. And again, that's Muskegon Taxpayers Alliance, one word. We are working on a Facebook site for the show, and we'll present that hopefully next week. Again, don't forget to check out the website, newstalk1090.com, for links to the WKBZ Facebook page and live streaming so that you can listen to the show live on computer anywhere in the galaxy. Let's see. Until then, I've got a great friend and listener in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, if the podcast doesn't work, this friend, my good buddy Lou in Atlanta, has turned me on to a nifty piece of software called Audacity, and I hope it's going to allow me to post the entire radio audio on a link that I'll share with you on the blogs and Facebook. Next week, September 25, my guest will be County Commissioner Alan Jagger. Some call the newly elected commissioner Dr. No, because he votes against any of the spending and additional hiring items on the county board agenda. Some call him a breath of fresh air. Some don't. He will be my guest next week, September 25. Invite your friends and join in our community conversation. We need listeners and callers if we're ever hope to affect real change for the positive here in Muskegon land. We've got $100 million in non-funded promises to county employees and retirees. We'll talk about that. Will taxes go up? You bet we'll ask County Commissioner Alan Jagger that next week. Stay tuned to Tom Sinaki's Polk of Memories. Thanks to Oscar, Tracy, Lorenz, the entire crew at News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the Talk of Muskegon. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Love me sometime.
Men accept a lot of things.